Hey everybody, it's John here at National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into our picks here for the tonight's games, the basketball games, and as well as the Astros. So I don't typically do this, but last night, like I said, I don't just play every game, so we wound up splitting. I did have the Nets winning, and they didn't. This is a different sequence. The Nets, I had them the other night, and they lost. So we did get the Heat last night, but we missed the Nets, as you can see, and that was a third leg. We missed the Wild and the Wizards. Luckily, I started at a lower increment, so I was able to. The reason I spent 70 on this last leg was to buy points. I'm sorry, 75. But either way, what I'm doing is I'm just spending 35 on the Astros to win the run line, and I like the Mavericks. They have yet, outside of playing the Grizzlies, they have yet to have a home game this year where they have really blown up. And as I said, I've seen them play a bunch of home games, and they're like the Warriors. There are so many games they just run away with. And I think the Jazz, they've covered the spread a good bit this year, and they've spoiled a lot. So I think this would be a good game where a lot of people might be on the Jazz for that reason, that the Mavericks do cover. And as you know, I go by this spread a lot because I think it's a very interesting spread. And as you can see, Dallas is pretty good against the spread this year. But again, at home, they typically finish very good against the spread. That's also the reason I'm fading Milwaukee. I went against Milwaukee because if you look, again, it's not a guaranteed stat, but you see Milwaukee's only lost one game against the spread. And it just doesn't typically happen where a team finishes at 80%. You might have one, and usually that does, like 63% was the best last year. The year before was the bubble, I think, 61%. And it works both ways. 37% is the worst. My point is, over time, teams just don't go 1-10 against the spread. That pace just wouldn't hold. So that's the reason I use that metric. So I am doing a parlay, and I'm fading Milwaukee. I think they do lose against the spread here. And for that same reason is why I went with the Rockets to cover. Now, the Rockets do have a decent record against the spread. I just think they're a great spoil team. And I also think a lot of the public action is going to be fading them. Just playing the Clippers, I think a lot of people are just going to pick them. This time they're going to blow them out. And I just feel like Houston at home, they get this win. The Clippers have been kind of shown I'm not going to bet a lot of Clippers games, but this one is one that I like. I do think Houston covers. There's a good chance they even win the game. And again, the Clippers just have not been playing like a unified team right now. So that's the reason I'm fading them, and I do think they lose that game. And then the other one I have, like I said, I think Dallas beats Utah. I picked them to cover the spread. Now, as you can see on the Clippers one, I did parlay it. I do think Houston gets the win, and just for the odds, that of course they can win by 1, but I wanted them to win by 1.5. So I got the Mavs and the Astros parlayed, and what that's going to do is it's going to be for the basically a fourth leg of this one that we lost, sequence 109. And if we're to lose it, we will cancel it out. We'll close it out and accept our loss. Like I said, we're still up a good bit. And then we have Portland just straight up here for the Clippers over loss the other day. So, of the games I like, I don't play them all, but I know people like my advice on different games. But I do like Dallas to cover that spread. I'm staying away from Toronto. I don't know enough about that team. I just don't think Milwaukee continues that good against the spread, so I'm fading them. And I'm picking Houston because I think they could be a straight upset. And a lot of people are going to pick the Clippers because they're the Clippers. The reason I'm not playing games like Atlanta versus New York is you have mixed narratives. They are pushing the Knicks this year as a legitimate team, but at the same time, Trae Young is known as like the daddy of New York, where every time he goes there, he embarrasses them. Now, usually it is in a losing fashion, but with that narrative, and I just don't think it's a safe game to bet. They're going to play a couple times, and I feel like I'd be ignorant if I told you I knew which time Trae was going to win and lose. So if I had to, I'd probably go with Trae Young, since it's the first time they're playing. But I'm staying away from that game. Sorry about that. And then the other thing is, the next game, here's another one that I'm staying away from. We have Charlotte at Chicago. And I feel like they want to make Chicago look good at home. But then I wonder, who owns the Charlotte Hornets, Maybe in Chicago, this man's going to win. So I see mixed narratives there. That's the reason I'm staying away from that. If I had to, like I said with Trae Young, I would pick him. And if I had to, I would go with Charlotte just to cover that spread. But the ones I did go with is fading Milwaukee. I do think that one's fine. I like Houston. I feel confident in them. And then picking Dallas. Now for the later games, Pelicans and Lakers, they played already. When you have teams that play multiple times, I try and stay away from them until like mid-season because they can just trade back and forth. The Lakers just covered a spread, so that metric's not as important to me. Now this game I think is more about narratives, and I did go with the Blazers just straight up as a second leg of the Clippers loss, and this is just them to cover 5.5. I just think they might win this game. So at first I was wondering, why are the Blazers continuously getting these odds? It's like the public's going to be all over them, but then they win the games. And I think it's just because earlier in the season, before the season started actually, it was right after the Warriors won, I put out a prediction about what I saw in the Blazers and why I thought they were going to be pushed. So I think what it is a lot of the public is still seeing them as a team that didn't make the playoffs, and they're not seeing them as a ridiculous threat with Simons and Dame, and even when he's not healthy, you got Shadon Sharp and Hart, and you got they just traded for Grant. Nurkic is good. They have a really good team, and I think they're purposely just kind of sleeping on them, and that's why they're beating teams like the Warriors, the Suns, and I think that continues tonight when they beat the Grizzlies. So normally I would think this is a trap, and I would pick the Grizzlies, but I think they're going to show kind of that Ja, even though he has good teammates like Bane and Brooks and guys that do play as a good unit, it's not the same as the Blazers. I think they really want to push the Blazers. I think through about 15, 20 games, they're going to have the best record. Now, you can watch my second video ever. I do go into why I like the Blazers and why I think they're going to cover why I think they're going to actually win the West this year. I have them in the Western Conference Finals. I got a good bit of money on that. You can still pick them to win the division at 4-1, and this would be before this game would be a good time, because should they beat the Grizzlies, that 4-1 is going to become like 2.5, 3-1. Just telling you, because they were 8-1. I believe they beat the Nuggets and they moved even more. So these lines move quick. You don't have to, but I am on the Blazer train, so I think they win. And that's really all I got. All the other games, I just don't play games that I don't see a need to. For college, a lot of people were telling me Central Michigan's a lock. I looked into it. Nothing to me would suggest that, but I haven't really watched their gameplay. Their spread record's about even with their opponent, and I just, if you're going from the advice I got, I'd say okay, go Central Michigan, but I'm personally not playing that game. And then as far as the Astros, like I said, I put them in the parlay for value. If they win, I just don't think it's going to be a 1-point game. I think they might reserve that for like a Game 5 or a Game 6. I think their bats get going early, and we see what happened with the Phillies, just reversed. So hopefully, like I said, the worst thing with the parlay, the reason I don't like them, is you can hit the two of the right ones on the wrong parlay, obviously, and miss both. But I'm doing it for value. We're still up should we lose these two, and they're leg 3s, leg 2s that we're only paying a minimal amount for. And I was going to put the Astros on both and just do one basketball game. That's how much I have confidence that they're going to win. But you never know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Phillies win and go up 3-1. But that's what I have. And that's really all I have. I'll put out, obviously, we got the Thursday night game tomorrow, and we got some college tomorrow. So I'm going to put out our picks for there. But I just want to close some of these sequences and not have too many open. So that's why I didn't do a bunch of picks. I just went with Portland, Dallas, and I went with the Astros and the Rockets. So that's who I have. And as I said, people are telling me about Central Michigan, but I didn't watch the game. But you don't have to take the Astros minus that 1.5 if you want to be safer. I just did it for value. I'm going to close this leg out if it loses anyway. That's where the system works. I'm going to go more into the system because that's where the crux would be if we were to continuously double up should this parlay not hit. And normally I wouldn't pick a parlay, but I do like this one. But yeah, we basically close it out and move on to the next sequence. We're about 320, so we're going to see how these go. And I just have faith that, especially the Bucks one, I think they do lose against the spread. I don't see a team just going at a 90% pace against the spread. So that's who I have. I went over the other ones, but I wouldn't go, just like last night with the Magic, the Wolves, I wouldn't go out of my way to pick those games. That's just who I would pick if I had to. I'd go with Trae Young. I'd go with Michael Jordan to cover that spread. And those kind of games. But these are the ones that I'm definitely going with. So take care, guys. I'll have a recap video up as well as a video just going over the next games. Happier.